This particular concept has been a topic of frequent discussion in the field of international affairs. The concept has been defined in numerous ways, resulting in its current state of ambiguity. When used objectively or descriptively, the phrase refers to the proportionate allocation of power across states, which can be either equal or unequal. Traditionally, it denotes a condition in which no single state holds dominance over others. Prescriptively, it refers to a policy of supporting a balance of power on the basis that unbalanced power is dangerous. States that are strategically disadvantaged in the balance of power should join alliances or take other measures to bolster their capacity to deter a potentially dominant state. Additionally, a particular state may choose to adopt a self-aware approach to maintaining balance by switching sides when appropriate. A balance of power policy necessitates that a state exercise restraint in its pursuit of power, as an excessive concentration of power in one state may elicit counterproductive responses of fear and animosity from other governments. All balance of power systems share certain basic conditions. First, a multitude of independent nations without any lawful central governing body. Second, ongoing but regulated rivalry over limited resources or opposing principles. And third, a disproportionate allocation of prestige, wealth, and potential for power among the political entities comprising the system. The presence of inequality and the constant risk of violence create a common but unequal motivation for both dominant and subordinate governments to maintain the stability of the system, which safeguards their sovereignty. The balance of power is a form of agreement among governments who consider its structure more desirable than complete disorder, despite the fact that it benefits the stronger and wealthier states at the cost of equal sovereignty for all. A dominating or hegemonic state frequently seeks to legitimize its position by offering specific public goods to other states, such as an advantageous economic system or global security, or by promoting shared values among a group of states. Major nations enjoy a larger amount of the advantages of the system, but they also have a bigger obligation to act as its overseers. The first concept to consider is the differentiation between unipolarity, bipolarity, and multipolarity. Unipolarity refers to a scenario where a single state or superpower exercises dominant control over the international system. It is widely debated that the United States currently finds itself in this predicament. Bipolarity refers to a situation when two states or groups of states possess approximately equal levels of power. The term is frequently used to describe the era of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. However, it can be misleading. Due to their superior strength compared to all other nations, the two superpowers were not equally matched in terms of power. The Soviet Pole had significant economic inferiority compared to its opponent. However, its capacity to continue a nuclear arms race and extend its conventional military influence overseas masked its inherent fragility. Multipolarity is a state characterized by the presence of a minimum of three major powers. An exemplary illustration is Europe throughout the 19th century. In this scenario, the superior military and economic power of a particular state does not automatically grant it dominance, as smaller governments have the ability to unite against it. Another significant differentiation exists between regional or local balances and the balance of power on a global scale. While historians frequently refer to the European balance of power during the 18th and 19th centuries as the entirety of international affairs, this was actually only applicable for a short time when European governments held dominance over the rest of the world. Currently, we observe multiple regional balances superimposed by a dominant unipolar structure. Another differentiation can be made between a subjective and an objective assessment of the balance of power. An inherent challenge in assessing power dynamics in the modern era is the unequal distribution of power resources among major nations with no direct correlation between resource holding and the ability to influence outcomes. For instance, although the United States holds a significant advantage in military might, economic power is more evenly spread among the United States, Western Europe, and Japan. The relationship between the balance of power and the stability of the international system is a highly debated topic in the field of international relations. It is important to acknowledge that there is disagreement on the meaning of the term stability. For instance, it might signify tranquility, but it can also denote the persistence of a specific power structure, irrespective of its level of peacefulness. Several experts contend that multipolarity is inherently less stable compared to unipolarity or bipolarity. In a multipolar system, it is said that assessing dangers becomes more challenging, and states tend to shift responsibility to others and depend on them to counterbalance a rising state. Conversely, when power is centralized in one or two dominant superpowers engaged in global competition, they are prone to exporting their rivalry to other countries. Despite never engaging in direct conflict, the United States and the former Soviet Union caused the deaths of nearly 20 million people in the Third World through their involvement in a succession of proxy wars throughout the latter part of the 20th century. The discussion between proponents and adversaries of specific balance of power systems remains unresolved due to two primary factors. The distribution of power among states is a variable that exists at the structural level of analysis. The impact of the great powers and their specific relationships must be assessed to understand how it affects results in interstate relations. Furthermore, since the establishment of the modern state system in the 17th century, there have been limited instances of diverse systems that can be meaningfully compared. The concept of the balance of power is dynamic and must be understood within its own context. It is challenging to make definitive judgments regarding the supposed bipolar balance of the Cold War due to the fact that a significant portion of the rivalry between the United States and the former Soviet Union centered around the unique difficulties posed by the nuclear age.